Optimism is the only realism. So I want to talk to you today about optimism, and I'm compelled to talk to you about this because of two really important reasons. One is I'm a financial planner. I help people save for their like build their future, and I find optimism is absolutely necessary for financial success. So we are saving for the future, and you need to feel, be confident that the future will be better. And also you're buying investments that over time need to grow, and you need that confidence. So effective financial planning requires that you be optimistic about the future. So you need to feel you'll be better off in the future you're building, and you need to be confident in your investments long term. So now the other reason I need to talk about this is because I talk to young people, I read blogs from young people that are for some reason pessimistic today. So they believe the world is in decline because of things like climate change, or the world is unfair because of inequality. Now, I'll give you a couple of stats. So between 2005 and 2017, rates of major depression increased 52% in adolescents between 12 and 17, and 63% in young adults 18 to 25. It's depression, so in young people. So, and also, young people, a fair number of them have told me that, they're hesitating to have children, or, why bother getting a successful career or getting educated, because, the world's in decline anyway. And that pessimism, we have to address that. We can't let our young people have this kind of pessimism. So, interestingly, in my life, it's always been good. Like, so in my own personal life, every decade has been better than the last. The world is getting better all the time. And I've witnessed it not only in my life, but around the world. We are, as humans, we are healthier and wealthier and have cool technologies, compared to years ago. And the world is getting better all the time. So that's why I say optimism is the only realism. So let me address this. So first of all, I just want to, give some perspective on the big negative issues. So for example, the big one talked about today is climate change. And it is not, despite what you may read, it is not existential. It's not the end of humans. It is not the end of the world. So based on most of the studies seem to say by 2100, it'll lower global GDP by 2.6%. Even the worst case scenarios, reading by economist John Cochrane, the worst case scenarios is climate change will cut GDP by 5 to 10% by 2100. So it has a real effect. However, we need to put this in perspective. So if GDP globally continues to grow, let's say around 2% a year, then by 2100 it'll be 387% higher than today. So even if we lose 2 or 5 or 10% of it for climate change, it's a small piece of what we happen overall. And overall, we still should expect to be, like humans on average, will probably be about at least 4% wealthier by 2100, even if we do nothing about climate change. So, and that growth is actually, a lot of people expect it's going to be higher than that if a lot of the third world countries develop and get much closer to the standard of living of the developed countries. So it's possible that growth could be more like 3% a year instead of 2. So bottom point is climate change is not the end of the world. And instead of that, we should focus on the long-term growth, the optimism, the real optimism. So I'm a big believer in capitalism. And you know what? Capitalism is really beautiful. It is elegant. And there's the great quote, "The Invisible Hand" by Adam Smith, showing that how capitalism brings quality of life to everybody. So, and it's actually really profound. The idea that millions of people acting in their own self-interest, trading in a free competitive market, actually create exceptionally efficient social and economic outcomes. So that for everybody, that's really profound. So, and that is what capitalism does. So, and it's been solving a lot of human problems. I'll give you an example. Absolute poverty is down about 90% in the last few decades. So the actual inequality around the world is actually getting smaller. So instead of focusing on the few billionaires, look at all the poor people that have come out of absolute poverty. And the main reason for that is free trade. Like, we're buying more things from China and India and all over the world, and those people are getting real jobs and coming out of absolute poverty. And so here's an example of capitalism improving the lives of humans, globally. So now capitalism is not perfect, but it provides the highest standard of living for everyone on average compared to any other system. Like, it's better than socialism or communism or monarchy or dictatorship, and we know that already, that it provides a better lifestyle for everybody than any of these other systems. The other part about is let's talk about investments. So the stock market, there's a lot of talk about how it goes up and down short term, but it is very reliable long term. And you can look at different markets globally, different countries, and we have the best data from the S&P 500, and it's actually changed over the years. But just to give you a sense of the long term, so the worst 25-year calendar growth of the S&P 500 in the modern stock market, say since 1930, has been 7.96% per year. So that means in the worst case, it was 7 times higher 25 years out. So, you invest money 25 years from now, you have 7 times higher. That has been like the worst case scenario. So in general, 25 years from now, based on history, it's highly likely that the market is going to be between 7 and 20 times higher today. And that's why you need to invest for the long term. Another reason to be optimistic. So, and the reason it does that, like, people say, well, what happens if we get, major catastrophes? Isn't this all going to change, or investment's still going to be good? But, when you're investing in the stock market, what you're really investing in is great businesses, and they have managements, and whatever happens in the world, they will adjust their operations and try to keep their profits rising, and that is what is behind the stock market rising long term. So again, a reason to be optimistic. Capitalism and free market, and then the stock market rising long term. This is why we live in rich countries now. So we have optimism about human development and capitalism. Life is far better in nearly every important way than 100 years ago. So I read a great book called It's Getting Better All the Time. And this is a classic. I would encourage everybody to go out and get it, even though it's about 20 years old. But it's written by Stephen Moore and Julian Simon. And it just goes through it just compares different stats from 1900 up to 2000, 100 years. What actually happened in the world? Let's just take a picture of it. And when you just see all of this, you have to be optimistic. So in this period, life expectancies have doubled in that period of time. Many diseases are eradicated, like tuberculosis, diphtheria, and yellow fever, which were the biggest killers of humans back then. And, that's mainly because of vaccines. So global incomes are at an all-time high now and still continue to rise. Absolute poverty, like I said, is down 90% in the last few years. We have new technologies like internet and smartphones and streaming services and all kinds of new technologies that make a huge difference in our lives. I think we've all seen that. So now real pollution, not, climate change is carbon, which we exhale, but real pollution, which is, particulate matter, nitrogen oxide, ozone, sulfur dioxide, like the real pollution is actually way down. I think it's down about 90%. I was trying to find the stat from 100 years ago. And, I think people forget that, Los Angeles used to have smog everywhere. We forget, what real pollution is. Now we have a carbon issue, but the real actual pollutants, poisons are mostly are actually down a lot. So also humanity has access to more food, more education, cleaner water, safer sanitation. A few decades ago, there was prediction that, we were going to run out of food worldwide, and there was a limit to the growth of what we could have, and that turned out to be totally false. We produce more food than we need around the world today. There's a rise in global happiness. the political empowerment of women. IQ scores around the world are rising. We have continued rise in vaccines that, to protect us against contagious diseases, falling cancer death rates, increasing democracy, fewer and less lethal wars. Risk of dying of natural disasters is actually down 99%. So, even if climate change gives us more disasters, I don't think there's any doubt that the people dying from natural disasters is going to continue to fall over the next 100 years. So also we have an increasing global tree canopy compared to 35 years ago. Increasing access to electricity. That's actually a huge reason for the reduction of poverty as well. Internet-driven access to information. It's spreading all over the world. We have access to information that we never did before. Literacy is up to, it's about 80% now globally compared to 20% 100 years ago. And, we have Moore's law that, the Moore's law is that the computer power doubles every 2 years. So it grows exponentially. And that's just kind of continuing. That's why we're seeing more and more power of all computers and all the new innovations that we're getting. So what we need is, freedom and brain power to keep developing these new ideas and inventions that benefit us all. And we have this invisible hand, the elegant beauty of capitalism, raising all of our life, standards of living. So, the question is, we've seen nothing but progress in the past. So on what basis should we expect nothing but decline in the future? I think that's the optimism that we all need to feel. Optimism is the only realism.